When was the last time you felt inspired? Are you ready to take your passions to make a difference while living a life you truly love? Your host, Katana Abbott, who is a life and legacy wealth coach and certified financial planner, searches the world to bring you experts in the field of personal and professional growth, wealth creation, and mind, body, and spirit. So grab a cup of coffee and take that quantum leap you've been waiting for. Smart Women Talk Radio, the link to live with purpose, passion, and prosperity.
Hello, everyone. This is Katana Abbott, and I want to welcome you all to Smart Women Talk, where I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors, thought leaders, and change agents who are on that leading edge. So you have topics like money, business, health, and inspiration. Today, I'm interviewing Master Certified Leadership and Performance Coach Sarah Papp, and Sarah Papp. And we're talking about living with ease, living your life with ease. Doesn't that just sound great? So we're going to talk about why this idea of ease is so important in creating a happy life. And we're going to talk about breaking the myth about effort, struggle, and sacrifice. And the formula, we're going to actually talk about the formula for creating ease. I'm just thrilled about this. And this is kind of like my theme this year, my personal theme. So every month we have a theme, and this is our theme for the month. So in a moment, you're going to meet Sarah, but first I would like to share a tip with you. So I like sharing a little tip at the beginning, and I want to share a tip that I use about creating ease. And I'm wondering for you, do you ever look at your to-do list and get overwhelmed or have a feeling of, deadlines creating butterflies, or waking up in the middle of the night and wondering if you missed something, or worrying about how you're possibly going to get everything done? Because having those kind of feelings can create overwhelm and have you feel unorganized. And then what that sometimes does is it leads us into inaction. And I have been there, and I'm sure you have too, because you get a sense of not knowing where to start. So if this is the case, then relax. Try these two. These are just two simple exercises you can do. The first one is about mindset. And fear and excitement have the same energy. So I say shift fear to excitement, because they both cause butterflies, increased heart rate, and respiration from increased adrenaline. So I notice whenever I'm headed out to an event or traveling or doing something new, I get butterflies. Even when I'm doing something fun and exciting, I still get these butterflies. So I had the experience the other night driving downtown to a concert with my husband. And when I shared this with him, he said to me that I was feeling scared, about going to this event. He said, have you ever thought that it could just be you're excited? Did you ever think of that? And I was so excited because so many times I've had this feeling and I didn't realize that I was probably just excited. And for some reason, I was thinking I was scared. So imagine all the areas of your life where you're experiencing stress, overwhelm, just feeling plain stuck. Maybe you just need a mindset shift. So I set up this little question for myself. And it comes from this idea of affirmations. And that's where you turn an affirmation into a question. So an affirmation is a positive affirmation. Well, let's turn it into a question, and they're really effective. So I just came up with this question of saying, when I'm feeling this fear, why am I so excited to be going downtown, for example? Because your brain's like a computer, and it's going to start giving you all the reasons why you're so excited. So next time when something's not going well or you're feeling stressed out, shift that into, why am I so excited about? And see if you can shift your energy and raise your vibration. So I notice that this is really working for me well. So that's number one. Number two is get grounded. So you can do this anytime. No one's going to know. And it's basically, if you're feeling yourself scattered like a tornado in your head, this is a great also a great exercise to do in the morning with your meditation. And it's basically called the 4-7-8 breath. So some of you may remember it or have heard of it, but we have to keep going back to these basics. And it goes like this. It's you breathe in for 4. You do a count like 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of a count. Breathe in your nose for a count of 4, 3, 4. Hold your breath for 7, count for 7, and then you're going to breathe out of your mouth for 8. And do this 4 times, and you're going to bring energy back into your body. And then what I would like you to do when you're finished this breath, I want you to focus on bringing the energy through the top of your head down into your body, all the way through your body at the end and down through your feet. And anything that's not serving you, let it just release out of your feet. And I want you to then open your eyes, and you should be feeling really grounded when you open your eyes. So I love this. I do the breath work pretty much every day, and sometimes during the day as well. So I'm really curious to hear what Sarah has to tell us, because she is actually a creating ease coach. So she will have lots of tips. So she is a master certified coach with a BA in sociology from Sarah Lawrence College. She is a creator of the program Unstoppable Ease, publisher of Ease Magazine, and is on a mission to help women leaders stop hustling and instead lead with their heart and live with ease. Isn't that great? So Sarah, welcome to Smart Women Talk.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here talking about one of my favorite subjects. So thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. So how did you come up with this concept of becoming a coach that focuses on this idea of ease? Because we were looking for this topic, and then this is your expertise, which is so amazing.
It is, yeah. And it was through the journey of living what I would call the opposite of ease, where I was working really hard and feeling like I was hustling and believing that that was the route to success, and that success looked like effort and struggle and stress, and that was normal. And I really came to a point where I felt like I physically couldn't do it anymore, because I was having daily headaches and struggling with insomnia and just chronic stomach aches, a lot of physical symptoms of intense stress, and feeling like I had to make a shift. And that was the beginning of my journey into becoming a coach. But along the way, I always kind of had this question in the back of my head of, is there a better way to live and work? Because most of the cultural rules kind of say that the way to do it is to push hard and to struggle, and whoever can handle it the most will be the one to succeed. And that never felt right. So I kind of felt like I began my own journey of searching for another way, because I knew that I couldn't do the same thing with my coaching work at all. Otherwise, I would just be turning that into a job. I wanted to have my work that felt like my passion feel so good, and the everyday action of it. So I started really noticing the times where it felt like ease and what was going on. And then I just began a search for what are the tools and the processes that people have done where they have found this feeling state. And it's very similar to flow, of just a feeling state in which you're able to do things, but it doesn't feel like stress. It doesn't feel like effort and struggle and sacrifice, but it has a feeling behind it of ease. So that's just a little bit of my journey of how I came onto this, and how now it's been my focus and my passion project, where I'm really feeling like this is what I want to talk about and teach people, because I now know there is a better way. And I've created a formula for it that we'll be talking about more today.
So what exactly is ease? I mean, you heard me with the 2 tips that I gave at the beginning. Am I on track when I use those for creating ease? I mean, just simply shift, is that true? I mean, I I felt this fear. And now when I look back, I probably was excited all these times, but for some reason, maybe it's my childhood experience of those feelings ended up being a negative thing. And so anytime you get those feelings, I'm thinking that relate them to fear. And I think most of the time it was excitement.
Yeah. Well, I loved your tips at the beginning, and they're really in alignment with the formula that I'll be talking about a little bit later. But the way that I define ease is that it's a conscious state of being absent of stress and struggle, where one's mindset and actions are in alignment with their true desire. So, yes, if we were to look at what you were talking about, it sounds like there could have been old pattern in there that was telling you that this feeling inside you was fear. But then when you became really conscious of it and went into it, that you could see that there was excitement in that. And so that was a little shift in your mindset to see, what am I actually feeling, and becoming more conscious of that feeling. And in doing so, you actually clicked into more of an ease mindset rather than what may have been an unconscious default assumption that it was fear. So I think that's a great example of how to go from an unconscious state into a conscious state that is really aligned with ease.
So do you think that each time I or anyone who's listening might feel these kind of feelings coming up with the heart racing and, the tightness in the throat and the butterflies, we can say something like, oh, why am I so excited? And wait to hear an answer back from our intuition or our body, because I know a lot of us get nervous when we're going to start something or say something, and maybe we really are excited and we think of it as fear.
I think that's absolutely possible. And I think that for some people, they might also feel like, well, there's still a mix. I do feel afraid, or I feel nervous and excited. Mm-hmm. And so then what? And so then it's just exploring what might be causing some of that fear. So that's just then looking at the thoughts that you're having, the mindset that you have, what you're telling yourself that could be creating that feeling, and then doing some of the shift, perhaps shifting into something like you said of, I could feel really excited about that. This could be enough of a shift for it to create the feeling of ease for someone, or it might take a little bit more perceptive shifting of perception to move that feeling of fear. So it could be
like the breath work, for example. So then if you're still feeling a little, in your head, or butterflies, or that pit of the stomach thing, then doing the breathing, because from what I understand, you doing this 4-7-8 breath work activates the parasympathetic nervous system.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's another tool that could absolutely work for that fear. Yeah.
So how can we all experience more ease in our life? Do you have some suggestions just that we can use on a daily basis, or?
Absolutely. So I think one thing, which is what we have been talking about of becoming more conscious about it, is really looking into how we are feeling in what we are doing. So when I talk about ease, I point a lot to the feeling behind things. So this could be the feeling behind action. This could just be the feeling that you have every day, and tuning into that so that you can get some clarity on how you are feeling. This is mainly just practicing deeper awareness of yourself. And rather than going to the mind for greater awareness, in this case, I'm pointing you to how you feel physically in your body as well as emotionally. So that's just kind of the basic foundation of gaining that awareness, noticing what feels like ease and what doesn't. And then what I teach my clients is the formula for ease. And so the formula for ease that everyone can practice is basically 3 things. And it's your mindset, actions, and compassion. So sometimes for easy memory, I'll call this my other Big Mac. the MAC, mindset, action, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So with these, there's practices that you can have within each one. So we've talked a lot about mindset already. And some things that I would want to add on to that is that there's really different mindsets that you can have. And I talk about empowered mindsets versus disempowered or powerless mindsets. So an empowered mindset is really aligned with ease. When you feel empowered, there can be that feeling behind the action that feels like ease. On the flip side, powerless mindsets can feel like stress, can feel like overwhelm. It can feel like hustling. It's often driven by fear. Two very different mindsets. So even if you're feeling powerless right now, the good news is that you can create an empowered mindset. So I'll give you 3 mindset tips that you can really put into practice today. So first is meditation. So I bucket this under my mindset formula because I think that meditation is one of those practices that will really help with your mindset. Neuroscience is proving what wisdom teachers have known for thousands of years, that meditation positively helps your brain. So what you're doing in meditation is that you're shifting your brain waves to a state that helps you think better. It improves your health and your mood and all things that are really that foundation for an empowered mindset. So I highly recommend, if you don't have a meditation practice already, to try to add in 15 to 20 minutes once, or better yet, twice a day. And that will really help with your mindset.
Now, do you have any, I wanted to ask you real quick on this, on the meditation then, because a lot of people have a hard time just trying. I mean, I've heard so many people say, I just can't do it. You know, I cannot do it. It's too boring. I just get distracted. Do you suggest just sitting there in silence and just allowing the thoughts to keep floating by? I mean, that's one way, and then doing the breathing. Or do you like the idea of doing it with something that's like a guided meditation or where there's music? Because I use the HoloSync meditation. It's 15 minutes and it's got the binaural beats and this music. And it just takes me into an altered state of consciousness. But is that actually meditating?
It sounds like it is to me, especially when you say that it's an altered state of consciousness, that it sounds like that is meditating. The first thing that I say is that if somebody is really resistant to meditating, that it is not about clearing your mind. I think that that's one of the biggest misconceptions about meditation, is that it is intended to be a practice in which you sit down and then you clear your mind. That's what I hear from my clients a lot. And I always say it's not about clearing your mind. It's knowing that your mind is going to produce thoughts like your heart pumps blood. It just does it. So toss out the expectation that you're going to go into meditation and stop thinking. Then it's try to find a meditation practice that works for you. So I know that some people really love guided meditations and that works for them. Others don't want somebody talking to them while they're trying to meditate. They would much rather sit in silence. So,
and what about the music with the binaural beats? Because you were talking about the brain patterns. Because I believe some of those can move you into alpha, theta, and delta waves in a very quick, quick, fast time or something. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. So I think that is a great one to check out. Another one that's great to check out that I'll just note is that there's a tool called Heart Math where you can actually get some biofeedback while you are meditating too. So if you're somebody who really struggles, you can check it out. I think it's heartmath.com, and you can buy a tool that clips to your ear that then measures your heart rhythms, and your heart rhythms send signals to your brain. So while we're not getting feedback from your brain, you're getting feedback from your heart rhythms. And those two are very connected. So if you are able to take deep breaths and be in a place of appreciation, that is going to change your heart rhythms that are also going to change your brain waves. Heart Math also talks about doing this practice for only a couple of minutes. So if you're really resistant to the 15 to 20 minute meditation, you might also try something like that, where you can start with just a couple of minutes and get that biofeedback from Heart Math.
And have you done it?
Yes, I love it.
I do too. You know what though? I bought it and then I had an attachment that went to my old iPad. So I need to buy the new attachment.
The new one, yeah.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, it's pretty amazing because I noticed that I will, because if you hold your breath, if you breathe in and hold your breath, it makes you stressed. And if you breathe out and hold your breath, it brings your energy down. And I noticed with the Heart Math, I was holding my breath.
Yeah. It's a really cool tool to build that awareness. Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. You're giving us some really great tools here then.
Good.
So besides this meditation, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all.
Okay. Because that was number one, was the meditation.
And then the next one connects back to what you've already mentioned at the beginning, is affirmations. So affirmations is another tool that I share for mindset. Like I said, our minds are thinking all of the time. It's not something that we can just turn off. And we're talking to ourselves all of the time. So using affirmations is about being more conscious about what you're thinking and then directing your thought so that it creates a desired feeling. So if you're wanting to feel more empowered or more confident, then it's telling yourself an affirmation that will create that feeling. So again, I'm emphasizing the feeling because that's when you're knowing if it's working, is if you're able to move that emotional needle so that it's pointing closer to empowered. So for some people, affirmations like, I always have choices, can create the feeling of being very empowered, or I am good at this and I'm only getting better, can be another affirmation that would create a feeling of confidence or empowerment. So then it's finding something that you can say to yourself that creates that feeling and then practicing it. Something that you can play with to find what affirmation would work really well for you is to jot down what you might be thinking that's causing stress. Try the opposite. Just see what happens if you flip it around and how that feels. That can sometimes be an easy way to try it on your own when you're not working with a coach to help you with this. Try that. Or sometimes if you can ask yourself, what is it that I really need to hear right now? And the first thing that comes to mind could also be a great affirmation to create the feeling of ease and empowerment.
And what do you think of Noah St. John's affirmations, taking the affirmation and turning it into a question? And he says, because sometimes you're saying, I am so wealthy, and you're not. It's easier to say, why is it so easy for money to flow to me? And so then it's something, oh, well, that seems more realistic. And then the brain will start answering you, or having synchronistic events happen. Have you heard of that?
Yep. And I love that.
Oh, good.
What I tend to talk about is kind of where you're at on the emotional scale. So if you said, I am so wealthy, and you're trying to think of all of the areas of your life where you're wealthy, and it's a roadblock, you can't think of anything, then that could be jumping too far. And then trying the question technique is a great way to sort of back up a little bit, try asking yourself a question like you gave us as an example, and then see if that then creates a little bit more of that movement in the emotional side of things. So does it create the feeling of ease to ask that question? So yes, I absolutely love that. And I think that it's always going to your internal feelings as to know which one feels right in the moment. Because sometimes some people will be in a place where they're feeling pretty empowered and want to just feel even that much more empowered. And a statement does that for them even more so than a question.
Interesting. Good. Okay. So that's number 2. I love both of those.
Yeah. So then number 3, again, we've talked about this. It's all in alignment with what your tips were in the beginning, is shifting your perspective. So we all see the world from different perspectives based on our past or what we're presently living or how we might perceive the future to be. So oftentimes, if we can try to see the situation from a different angle, it will open up a whole new perspective where we can feel calm, aligned with ease, and more powerful. So for example, if my clients are feeling really challenged with their children and have no idea what else to do, I might ask them to imagine that their children are not their children, but that they are actually their grandchildren. And how would they see the situation as a grandparent in this situation?
Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, I usually get quite a bit of laughter. And like, oh, I would see it totally differently if I were the grandparent. And it's like, well, tell me how you'd see it as a grandparent. And then usually I get a nice deep sigh, like the exhale of releasing of stress. And it's like, well, as a grandparent, I probably wouldn't see this as such a big deal. And I would see that this is normal. And I would see that there's nothing wrong with my kid and that I'm not doing a bad job and that this is just kind of what it is. And I'd probably laugh about it more. Like, it just typically rolls like that of how they would see the situation differently if they were seeing it as a grandparent.
Is it because there's less judgment or something? Because that's how I felt.
Yeah, I think that I think it's
ourselves, judgment on ourselves, I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think that also when they imagine themselves as a grandparent, that they imagine just this whole different life's perspective, that they imagine having already seen a child grow up and turn out just fine. And now they have this perspective as a grandparent, knowing how normal things like this are. And that then they cut themselves some slack, seeing it as a grandparent. Yeah. So similarly, I'll also ask people to imagine themselves 20 to 30 years in the future. So I'll ask, how does your future self see this situation? And we'll do an exercise. We'll really guide them into connecting with their future self and then asking, how does your future self see this situation? And this works great for people who are struggling with their business or conflicts at work or when they're seeking clarity, that they can shift their perspective by going to their future self. And again, gain like the years of perspective that they would have as their future self and gain the wisdom of their future self and then look at the situation from their future self's vantage point. And that's a whole different perspective. And again, most people are like, oh, I see that I'm doing a great job. I can see that I'm doing this and can shift this. And it's just a different way of seeing a situation that can just move them into a space of ease.
So what actually happens when they go into the future like that? Because that is interesting. If you imagine your life 20 or 30 years out, what kind of shift do they actually have? And they're looking at 20 years from now, I'm having this issue, but 20 years from now, it's not a big deal, or do they actually see themselves where they want to be?
Let me clarify that just a little bit. Okay. So what I usually do when we are doing an exercise is having them imagine that who they are today and that they can sit and have a meeting with their future self. And their future self can advise them on their life today. So it's not really jumping into the future to see their future life. It's connecting with their future self. So for instance, if I have someone who is feeling really challenged with her business and she doesn't know what to do and she doesn't know if she's making the right decisions, and then we talk to her future self, I'll guide her to connect to her future self, someone who knows her entire life, all of the patterns of her life, who knows her business in and out because she has lived it. But now she's 20 to 30 years in the future, and she is exactly where she wants to be, feeling extremely happy, has everything that she really desired, and now she's available to you to offer advice for where you are. How does she see the situation right now? And usually what I hear is it can be anything from really crystal clear business advice that they're like, I don't even know where that came from, but it makes perfect sense what she said. Or I've had people say that their future self is telling them that they are doing an amazing job and that they just need to practice more self-care. You know, the messages that they seem to get from their future self vary widely, but everyone that I have worked with who connects with their future self feels this sense of empowerment of knowing that they have this future self, this guide that they can connect with, that gives them advice, but that knows them inside and out because it is them.
Well, and it is, yeah, because it's our higher self.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, how nice. That's very easy, and it seems like it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
So where do people go wrong with ease?
Most people go wrong with ease when they think that in order to experience ease, that means that they can't really do anything. And I think that that's because most people are so accustomed to believing that when I'm doing a lot, when I'm in a lot of action, when I'm working a lot, how could I possibly be in ease? So if I want to feel ease, well, does that mean that I need to go on vacation? Or does that mean that I need to lay on the couch all day long? And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about ease, is that it's about the action rather than about the feeling. So what I'm talking about is really finding the feeling of ease and knowing that you might be able to do more action while feeling ease than less, because you have that drive behind it of ease rather than trying to push through things with effort.
So what about this idea of, pushing upstream or allowing flow? Is the idea that we aren't supposed to be pushing ourselves and go, go, go? And I mean, is it realistic to think that life could actually flow effortlessly? I mean, is it really realistic?
I think the simple answer is yes. That's not to say yes. Now, that being said, I also make it really clear that it's normal. It's normal to feel like it's not always ease. And that sometimes, so if you were to have a picture in your mind, I think about a road, a freshly paved road, and it just is a smooth road that you're driving on. And that would be like your ease road. Now, it's not to say that sometimes you're not going to hit some road where there's potholes and that it's rough. And that doesn't mean that you're never going to hit smooth road again. What that means is that there's been major transition in your life, for instance, or something has come along, and then we use these tools to get back onto the ease path. So it could feel like ease and then bumpy road and then ease again, ease and then bumpy road and then ease again. But it's knowing that most of the time you're feeling like it's ease, and then knowing that you can get back to ease when you go through transition or growth or things that happen in your life that are really challenging, that don't feel like ease.
So what about this idea? Because I think I think this is true, but this idea of when you're feeling a lot of struggle and it's just not going right, that maybe that's the universe's way of telling you that you're headed down the wrong path and you need to step back and breathe, and maybe you need to try a different direction, because so many times that's happened to me. And then when I get on the right direction, and it might just be like, for example, if you have a business and you're pushing a new program or product, let's say, and it's just hard and you're not enjoying it, and then you just say, okay, well, I'm going to step back, and you get advice or whatever it is, but you try something new, and then that feels easier, and then all of a sudden all the prosperity and the flow starts happening, because I've experienced that myself. And I have to, when it's difficult, I have to sometimes say, okay, I don't think I'm headed in the right direction, and step back and try something new. Have you run into that, or do you think that's true?
I think that that is actually an excellent description of some of the ease to not ease and then back to ease. And as I was listening to you, I heard you say that you were trying something, it felt really difficult. Then you tried something new and it felt better. So you were pointing to the way that things were feeling as you were moving along. So I think that what you're describing is right on, that sometimes if you're trying something and it's just not working, it feels like this just feels like effort and I'm not having a good time in any of this. Let's try something different and try a new form of action, or it could also be a new form of thinking to see if it feels better. And then that's going more in that downstream flow of ease.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's a perfect description of it.
So we have to listen to our intuition, it seems.
Absolutely. And actually that kind of brings me to the other point in the formula, because we talked about mindset, and then the next part of the formula is action. So really, a lot of us will take a lot of unconscious action rather than really listening in to our intuition, listening into our intentions and the why of our action, and being very conscious about our action. So whether we realize it or not, a lot of the times our action is driven out of fear. So when we can pause before we go into a lot of action and ask ourselves a question like, why am I doing this? Or why do I want to do this? Another question could be, what is my intention behind this action? That can just move us into the present moment, become very conscious about our action, create that clarity around our intention behind our action, and then move forward more consciously with our action from that place. I also want to mention too that when you're really in a space of being conscious, feeling a sense of ease, feeling really empowered, that there's also inspired ideas. So just those ideas of like, oh, let me try this, or gosh, I'm so curious about this. And so I always recommend when you have those little just sparks of ideas that sound kind of fun or sound really interesting, to follow those ideas. That is great action to take. But the main things that I would want one to remember about action is to just take that pause and be conscious and intentional about the action that you're taking. And then when you feel those sparks of inspiration, to follow them, because that often leads to such a great place.
So Sarah, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because I had knee replacement. This is my third one. How do you get 3 knee replacements? Right, I had my right one done twice because the first one was a disaster.
Oh.
And then I just had the second one done in May, and I was all excited in July because I started riding my bike again. Then I had an accident and broke my right wrist. And it was a bad one. They had to do surgery. No. You know, the bones were sticking up, and it was my right wrist. So then guess what? And right when this was happening, I got my calendar out. I started planning all these things and projects. And And then all of a sudden I had to go 6 weeks, nothing again. Step back. But you know what? It was that pause. Because when you said the pause thing. And so I said, okay, well, I guess what's happening is the universe wants me to do less. Because my whole thing this year has been about simplicity. And so I started going, so, as I'm sitting there, I can't use my right hand for anything, right? Really,
Yeah.
you can't eat, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You're using that left hand. But what ended up happening with this whole process is I found a new state of gratitude. And having the gratitude came from, what if I was a single mom with a baby and this happened to me and I could lose my job and lose my house? I said, I don't have anything to worry about. I just can't use my right hand. And it opened up this period of time where I ended up taking so many things off my plate. And then I started simplifying what I was doing. And so sometimes when something bad happens to us, it's to help us have more ease, because the way I was headed is I was going to create all this stress for myself.
Yeah. I love that. I love that on so many levels. But one is, as I noticed as you were talking, that you started with a mindset shift. So you started off, gratitude is a mindset shift. So you went to what you could feel grateful for. Even though it was a terrible accident, you were shifting your mindset to go pointing it toward gratitude. Then you also talked about, what if I were a single parent? That's a perspective shift that also brought you to a place of gratitude, and also just moving your mindset into a place where you felt more empowered. Then you went into action, but in terms of taking things off of your plate and simplifying. So becoming far more conscious about your action. So even though you didn't realize that, you were going through the formula of ease, or creating ease by doing these steps. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to share something for everyone listening. Something really magical happened when I slowed down and took away a bunch of projects and didn't feel like I was losing anything. I just said, okay, I'm just going to release these things. Then all of a sudden, what my true purpose came up, and what I really want to be doing, it just clarified. And I want to be doing these retirement I'm a CFP, so a retirement reinvention retreats around the world, and I really have wanted to go to Portugal. And then because it was on my radar, all these opportunities came up, and I actually ended up in a phone call with a gentleman who leads these retreats. He offered to let me do one with him in May. So I'm going to be leading a retreat to Portugal for 10 days with 12 people to explore retiring overseas in Portugal. Now, that never would have happened, because I would have been in a totally, all the stuff with caregiving and seminars and all this stuff. No, I want to go. This is so nice how this just appeared to me. I never would have imagined it.
Yes. And so that is just a brilliant description of a couple of things. When I was just speaking about inspired ideas, talk about an example of inspired ideas. Like, you just got this idea, and you said that by doing these things, by clearing your plate and simplifying, that it allowed that inspired idea to come to you. You gain clarity about your true purpose and what you really wanted to do. Then that feeling that you were in, that inspired really ease, you were in ease, and then it's all coming together with ease. That's where it's saying that you can do a lot. You can have a lot happen. You can do big things, but not have it feel like stress and struggle and effort and pushing uphill, but instead having it feel like ease and flow and ideas coming easily, and then the pieces that are needed for those ideas coming together and the actions coming together, and it not feeling painful, but really feeling like ease and joy doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So does ease mean doing less?
Sometimes. Sometimes I hate to always provide it depends, but it does. It depends on where you're at. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes for people, the path to ease, the fastest route to ease is sitting and breathing and doing nothing and connecting to their body so that they can shift from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's going to be one of the fastest ways to make shifts. For some people who might be really on a strong path of ease, and then they feel like they just kind of got knocked over with something, and they don't want to quit what they're doing. They just want to feel better in the doing of it. Then it can be a mindset shift. So again, both of those are landing in the mindset bucket there of either meditation or shifting perspective, for instance. But in either case, one could just be sitting and not doing action, and it could be a lot of time of sitting and breathing and not doing action. And the other could be somebody who is really able to make some mindset shifts, have it feel like it's really sticking, and they're able to continue with action and feeling like ease. So that's where it depends, just kind of where you're at in the spectrum. I would say in the spectrum of stress and the spectrum of feeling stress, hustling, overwhelm, all of that.
So I'd like to talk about, linking to this higher self or creating this ease, because one of the things when I was mentioning to you that, when I cleared away some of the things that I decided I wasn't going to focus on, and I just started thinking about this idea of going to Portugal. I had no idea that I could end up doing a retreat. I would never want to plan one. But then something so magical happened that I end up talking to someone who does this, and I can partner with him and actually pull the group together. But I don't even have to end up putting the whole event on, because that to me was, I'm getting goosebumps. It was so magical.
Yeah. It's no surprise to me, because really I cannot tell you how often I hear stories very similar to that, of when I felt a sense of ease about it, then I ran into this person, or I got a phone call out of the blue, and it's really just, that's the part of ease where I say in the definition of it's an alignment with your true desires. So when you are in alignment with your true desires, it's like they come right to you. Actually, I shouldn't say it's like that. They come to you. Oftentimes in the form of ideas, other times in the forms of running into people or having somebody call you or suddenly getting an email of an invitation. It's like what you desire then comes to you. And that is connected to your higher self, and also to the feeling that you have and the energy that you are putting out into the universe. That's all coming right back to you. So that's another sense where it can create ease in the doing of things, because as you're feeling ease, then your true desires are also coming to you with ease.
Wow. Well, why don't you share with us some of the cultural myths that we have out there about effort and struggle and sacrifice? Because I think there is, especially in the United States. I was just talking to one of my daughters. She mentioned something. I didn't even know I got a paid vacation last year, so I didn't take it. And she said, so I'm taking it this year. And she said, why is it overseas they get so much vacation time? So I think we have a cultural thing here that it's like a badge of honor to be a workaholic, to skip your vacation. A lot of people, they don't even go to the doctor or exercise because they're so focused on work and making money, or how about just being the caregiver of everybody?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that you described it really well, especially like the badge of honor, or basically people believing that success looks like stress. I think that there's a lot of cultural beliefs that in order to get things done and to be successful, that it requires stress and that it requires effort and struggle and sacrifice. And that if you're not doing those things, that you're doing something wrong. And that, I think, is the biggest misconception, because that is leading us to a place of being a very unhappy culture, a very unhealthy culture, and also really a lot less productive than most people believe themselves to be. So, I wish that I had the statistics just right at my fingertips, but I don't at the moment. But I know that there is a lot of information out there about people who are working fewer hours and getting more done than people who are working longer hours in the day and believing that they're getting more done. That actually, when we are taking breaks, we are able to be more productive. So I think that this is one of the biggest myths that is out there about success and productivity, and that it requires these things, when in fact, we can actually get a lot done, feel more confident in what we are doing, feel more empowered, better to think through what we are doing when we are in a relaxed state, when we're in the parasympathetic nervous system, when we feel a sense of ease in what we are doing, we can actually do more.
Oh, I really agree with that. And, you mentioned that there. I remember when I worked at Ameriprise as an advisor, financial advisor, there was a manager who 4 days a week was a manager, but ran his practice on Fridays and was able to totally run his practice 1 day a week because that's how he did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, he put all the systems in place, and he did seem like he had a big sense of ease about it. So that is really exciting. It is possible to work less hours and be really effective. Well, this has just flown by, hasn't it?
It so has. And, I do want to squeeze in the last part of the formula if we have time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, we've got a couple of minutes here. So,
well, I'll make it fast just because I don't want somebody to be listening and wondering, well, what is the C of MAC? C is compassion.
Oh, that's right. Compassion.
So that is part of my formula. So it's mindset, action, compassion. So the reason why I talk about compassion is because a lot of the times when we are on that smooth road of ease, and then when it gets bumpy, a lot of people will go into a place of being hard on themselves. And so going to self-compassion can be an extremely powerful tool to realigning with our higher self, to get back into a place of feeling empowered and on that road of ease. So what I often ask my clients, if they're beating themselves up about something or being hard on themselves, is simply, what would you say to someone that you love in this situation? And then say it to yourself.
And
this
that is very nice, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
To be nice to ourselves.
To be nice to ourselves and
yes.
to really not undervalue this. Because it is extremely powerful to really be kind to yourself and to have that voice of kindness and compassion in your mind, that is also a place of confidence and being able to handle the bumps in the road and get back onto ease because you are being kind to yourself, not because you are being hard on yourself. Yeah. So, we can see how all of these things kind of tie together, from the cultural myths that is really kind of a push and drive and be hard on yourself, to, hey, there is a better way. And that it's when you have your mindset, you're conscious in your actions, and you're really kind to yourself, that you are very empowered and you are able to get a lot done and do really big and amazing things in this life, but not have it feel like sacrifice and struggle and effort. It can feel like ease.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Well, Sarah, it has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your mindset, action, and compassion formula with us. We talked briefly at the beginning about the free program you have every month. Could you tell our listeners real quickly? They come to Sarah Papp Coaching, is it?
Yes, head on over to sarahpappcoaching.com and you'll see that I offer a free monthly class. It's called Attracting Ease. So you can join, and when you join, you actually get access to all of the archive calls, and then you will get a notification as to when the next live call is, and it happens once a month, where we will get on Zoom live, and you can come and I will teach a subject. It might be on mindset, it might be focused on conscious action or on self-compassion, for instance, and then you can ask me any questions and also even get coaching within the group during that time.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What a generous gift you are giving.
Well, thank you. I absolutely love doing it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been wonderful. We all want more ease, and I think you've given us some really great tips.
Oh, thank you so much. Like I said, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So the time just flew by talking to you today because I absolutely loved it.
Yes, wonderful. So, and Sarah has the double P. It's Sarah and then Papp Coaching. So with that, thank you, Sarah. And for everyone listening, I want to remind you that in 2 weeks, we have another live show. Our next month is November. For those listening to our live show, we're doing we're going to be talking the whole month on caregiving. We're talking to caregiving concierge Annalie Kruger next time, and it's how to avoid being burnt out as a caregiver and how to be prepared for the unexpected. So until our next show, everyone, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity.
Thank you for joining us here at Smart Women Talk Radio, a place to learn, prosper, and grow. Tune in again next week for another exciting episode of Smart Women on the CTR Network. And remember to live with purpose, passion, and prosperity.